going to talk about experiencing the true self when we're in the midst of conflict. And I'm going to go straight to the example. I had been living as a roommate with a very religious man for a couple months. We had a 1-year lease, and I really liked the apartment. It was in my favorite neighborhood, had a washer and dryer inside the apartment, and the room setup was really great for seeing clients. And I had told him that I would be having my boyfriend visiting. Well, after a few months, 2 to 3 months, he told me that he didn't like that my boyfriend came by and that I needed to move out. Well, at first I was really upset. It seemed like I was being pushed into a situation to suddenly find a new place under a very limited time frame, and I didn't know what I'd be able to find. Now, over time, he and I had developed a nice friendship where we had talked about things that mattered to us and had enjoyed each other's company. So I also felt this sudden change that where I was living was a very unfriendly place and I didn't want to be home. So this conflict was rising, and I didn't want it to stay that way. I could see the likely outcome was that I was going to be leaving and would be happy to never see him again. So I stopped and felt into the situation. There was an identity of me that said I deserved to be able to have my boyfriend come and visit me in whatever room I rent. There was a place in me that said I deserved to have a lease that I signed be honored. And there was this whole self-identity around just simply being respected, having certain rights. And all of that identity was being challenged. Would I trust the universe's flow even in this situation? Well, I began by wanting to reconcile with my roommate. So I put myself in his shoes. Over the past 2 or 3 months, he had experienced my boyfriend coming over as something that violated his religious beliefs. And he had felt his home to no longer be his sanctuary. He probably had even felt that he was somehow participating in a sinful relationship. And as I felt that, I realized that over the past 2 and 3 months, he had been very uncomfortable and had probably been stretching himself as far as he could to look at the situation. And then I felt a sincere apology rising up in me. I didn't want to be putting him through that. So I wrote him a letter, and I took 100% responsibility for the situation. I saw that holding on to any single bit of my identity, of my rights, of my beliefs, was going to prevent peace in this situation. And peace mattered more than my identity. And then I saw how every conflict in the world is that way. Each side has a minimum amount that just seems like human decency to them. And as long as we hold on to our idea of what human decency should be, we choose that over peace. If we were being offered our dream house in our dream location with a dream amount of money, and we were told, but you have to present the application in the language of the person who is giving this to you, and with a meal that has only things that he would enjoy. We would figure out what was their language, what were their food preferences, what were their allergies, and we'd make sure that what got to him was something that he liked. But somehow when it comes to making peace, we put the onus on the other person. We want them to have some amount of apology. We want them to promise some amount of change. We want them to agree to a certain respect to us. And when we do that, we prioritize our ideas. Now, we may have to go our separate ways. There may no longer be a common ground to work with the person, but we can go our separate ways in love. That person has simply been themselves. And most likely, if we had paid close attention, we already knew these aspects of them when we entered into the arrangement with them. And we took a risk. We thought maybe we'd find some common ground that could make our arrangement work. So when we take responsibility for the situation and for the peace, there's a little surrendering of our ideas of how things should be, and there's an openness that somehow being authentic and being generous will still enable the universe to bring whatever we need. And as it turned out, the apartment that I found was much better. I no longer had a roommate, and it was exactly in the place and design that I wanted. The true self is a flow that won't go by our rules, but that will ensure that we have everything that we need.